Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. The first day of the monsoon session has got off arguably to the worst possible start. The Rajya Sabha was repeatedly disrupted because of serious differences between the Congress and BJP over how the government should respond to the Vyapam scam, as well as the Sushma, Swaraj, Vasundhara, Raje episode. The opposition has demanded that 3 heads at least must roll. The government, for its part, is prepared for an immediate discussion, but nothing more. But the opposition feels that what's more important is a high-level investigation, and a discussion, as Sitaram Yechuri put it, is no substitute. So tonight, over the next 1 hour, we ask, how strong is the opposition case? How effective is the government's response? And is there a solution in sight, or could the whole monsoon session be lost? My guests are Congress spokesperson and MP Abhishek Singhvi, BJP spokesperson Sambit Patra, JDU MP Pavan Verma, Biju Janata Dal MP Kalikesh Singh Dio, Akali MP Naresh Gujral, and Samajwadi Party spokesperson Gaurav Bhatia. Abhishek Singhvi, let me start with Anand Sharma and the Rajya Sabha. When we don't have Abhishek Singhvi at this moment. Pavan Verma, let me put that question to you, and I'll come to Abhishek Singhvi in a moment's time. When Arun Jaitley today indicated that he was ready for an immediate debate and that Sushma Swaraj would in fact participate and make a statement, was the opposition in the Rajya Sabha wrong to continue to disrupt Parliament and to force an adjournment? After all, they wanted a discussion. Arun Jaitley was agreeable to one. Sushma Swaraj was prepared to make a statement. So why the disruption?
I think, Karan, let me give you 3 quick points. The opposition wanted a discussion, but on the scale and extent of what is considered to be a deviation from ethics in government, involving several states. The question of the resignations was self-evident. I ask you a question, Karan, and you know British law as well. We have taken the hardware of democracy from Britain, but what about the software? If in Britain it was discovered that the foreign minister had gone behind the back of his or her government to assist an economic offender, and this had to come into the public along with conflict of interest and dubious financial transactions, would this minister have been able to survive, or would he or she have resigned on their own? Here we have a situation where the facts are out. They are not under debate. They've been admitted. They have not resigned. The Prime Minister has not spoken. Secondly, of all the spectacular U-turns the BJP has taken, this one is the most breathtaking.
You're going into the background which we know and it's indisputable, but the question is, in Parliament you're there to debate and discuss, and if the government is prepared to debate, and if Sushma Swaraj is prepared to make a statement either before or after, then what is the objection and why insist on a disruption instead? After all, you've got the debate you want. Now suddenly, having got the debate you want, the opposition said they didn't want it at all. You contradicted yourself.
No, let me clarify what I was saying. I was saying that the opposition has demanded from the very beginning that on moral grounds, one chief minister and the external affairs minister should have resigned. By now, the Prime Minister should have intervened in the matter. There is an ethically functioning democracy.
Now, hang on a second.
Secondly, I want to put before you.
Is your tactic to force the Prime Minister single-handedly to do what he doesn't want to do? After all, that's giving yourselves a level of power and a level of influence that's way beyond what any opposition party in any democracy ascribes to itself. You're laying down the rules of the game and insisting the Prime Minister to play by it.
Karan, we are only voicing our expectation. And I just want to bring to your notice that the BJP, which took so much umbrage to the fact that we didn't go have a discussion, Sushma Swaraj on the floor of the House said that disrupting Parliament is a form of democracy like any other form.
Well, actually, it was actually Arun Jaitley, but never mind. It was Arun Jaitley who said that, not Sushma Swaraj, in 2011 January. Oh, we seem to have a problem with his earpiece. Sadly, we've got a bit of problem with the equipment today. Let me bring in Abhishek Singhvi because I believe he's there. Let me put that same critical question to you, because that question, Abhishek Singhvi, is at the core of the discussion that I want to at least start with today. When Arun Jaitley indicated he was ready for a debate, when Sushma Swaraj was ready to give a statement either before or after, why were you not happy for the debate to go ahead? After all, you wanted a debate, you brought a motion for a debate, the government is willing to participate. Suddenly, you decided you wanted to disrupt instead. I put it to you that having got what you wanted, you were so taken by surprise, you decided you didn't want it instead and contradicted yourself.
Let me start, Karan, by saying that I am replying only to you and I haven't heard a word of the discussion or whatever Pawan Verma said. Now, I think the problem starts with your assumption that we got what we wanted. We did not want merely a debate. We believe that for a government and a Prime Minister which has kept total silence for 2 months, this debate is an empty formality. This is a sop, this is nothing but a make-believe hypocrisy. We said we wanted a resignation, even if it was a short while. We said that resignation can be followed by the shortest, most credible of inquiries, and there can be reinstatement. And along with that, we can have a discussion. We do not want a debate or a sterile discussion for the sake of a discussion. That's not our demand at all. We believe that the cumulative impact of 3 people, 1 at the center, 2 in the states, and of course 3 or 4 other names, shows that there is corruption, misdemeanor, irregularity rampant in this government.
Okay.
And the Prime Minister has completely till today distanced himself, and it's not satisfactory if the leader of the House simply gets up today and says, we want a debate.
All right. Let me bring in Sambit Patra, and I want to put to Sambit Patra an argument made today by Sitaram Yechuri, the leader of the CPM in the Rajya Sabha, and it was a very forceful argument. He said, a discussion is not a substitute for investigation. Secondly, MPs are not investigators. What is needed today to get to the bottom of the various scandals surrounding the 2 chief ministers and the 1 union minister is a high-level investigation. And secondly, as he pointed out, for that investigation to be fair, to be independent and to be recognized as such, it can only happen after the ministers have demitted office so that their influence does not colour the investigation. Why is that not a logical, legitimate demand from the opposition?
Karan, 2 quick points. For any kind of investigation to commence, in fact, the charges have to be proved. And discussion is of paramount importance. Debate is a preceding factor for any kind of charges to be pressed. And that's the reason as to why Mr. Arun Jaitley got up at the very onset and said that, well, yes, as you have demanded as per the parliamentary proceeding rules 287, we are ready to suspend all activity and we are ready for a discussion, we are ready for a debate so that you can press charge. And if you stand ground on that, then, well, we are not going to say no to the demands that you are saying because you have to press charges first. We'll make the statement, you debate, you discuss, but you don't do that.
Haven't the charges been pressed sufficiently clearly, forcefully and pretty obviously in all the press conferences, in all the press revelations, in all the coverage that we've had for the last 4 weeks? Why do you want a repetition of what we already know about, unless your real object is to prevaricate and delay and perhaps even deny?
Remember, Parliament is an independent ground. Parliament is the highest ground where the country debates and discusses before reaching any conclusion. So any kind of press conferences which were held before the Parliament ultimately has to prove itself on the ground of Parliament, and that means a debate in the Parliament is of absolute importance. And my submission to the Congress is, on similar grounds, the Assam Chief Minister, Mr. Gogoi, the Goa previous Chief Minister, Mr. Kamath, they should also be subjected to investigation. Mr. Gogoi should also resign, because after all it is a matter of $1 million being pocketed because of the Louis Berger scam that has unearthed itself very recently. So how can you have double speak on this?
Naresh Gujral, let me bring you in, because for many people at the heart of the dispute between the opposition and the government rise a real dilemma about the role of the legislature. No doubt it is important for the legislature to pass bills, and no doubt, therefore, decorum and debate are essential. But we have a separation of powers in India, and governance is the duty and prerogative of the executive, and under separation of powers, the role of the legislature is to make the executive accountable. That is its primary role in a democracy. And therefore, if the Congress party or the JDU believe that the prime role of the legislature is to focus on propriety and issues of corruption, and they are prepared to sacrifice some measure of bills being passed, they are not wrong to do so. They are highlighting and emphasizes the proper role of the legislature in our system, and that is to make the executive accountable.
Well, obviously, the role of the legislature is to make the executive accountable. But how do you make them accountable? Only through questions, only through debate, and only through discussion. Now, if you don't allow a discussion to take place, how will the facts come out? Mr. Pawan Verma just said that there was financial irregularity on the part of Mrs. Sushma Swaraj. Nothing has come in the public domain. If he has some evidence, let him put forward in the debate.
I'm not sure he actually said financial irregularity. I think he was talking about improper use of her office, and he was also talking about conflict of interest. He was talking about possible quid pro quo. And I will add potential breach of the Prevention of Corruption Act, Section 13(1)(d)(3). None of that is financial irregularity. A lot of it is probably more serious. And that needs to be made accountable. That needs an investigation. You don't need to debate it any longer.
All that Mrs. Swaraj has done is already in the public domain. You tell me, you people have debated for hours. For days, this debate went on every evening on the national television. Have you come out with any evidence against financial irregularity against Mrs. Swaraj? At best, you can say it was error of judgment. But you can't say there was any financial irregularity.
Error of judgment that amounts to misuse of power, error of judgment that can be interpreted as breach of Prevention of the Corruption Act is very much more serious than the limited phrase you used to describe it. That's the reason why you need investigation. That's why the Congress is saying discussion later, investigation first.
Karan, even if they want investigation, they can debate that in the House. They can demand an investigation. But by sitting out, you're not solving any problems.
Okay. Let me bring in Kalikesh Singh Deo. Mr. Deo, you're neither with the NDA nor are you with the UPA. Yours is a party that is equidistant from both. The issue that we're focusing on is this key question: should debate precede investigation, which is what the government is saying, which is what Sambit Patra said a moment ago, or should, as the opposition is demanding, investigation be the first step, debate only follows after that's happened? I'm going to take as an illustration Shivraj Singh Chauhan this time. A CBI inquiry has already been ordered into his case, into the Vyapam case. It's arguable that in a couple of days the Supreme Court will personally take charge. And in the meantime, many people believe that the BJP is either responsible for or at least is protecting some 45 or 48 people who are potential witnesses who've been killed. In fact, Ghulam Nabi Azad has already called this the grandmother of all scams. Now here, surely there are legitimate grounds for Shivraj Singh Chauhan to step aside so that the inquiry that is happening is not influenced by his presence in high office. As an independent person who doesn't belong to either side, would you agree with that or would you disagree with it?
Karan, my party absolutely agrees that Shivraj Singh Chauhan should step down while the investigation is being carried out in the case of Vyapam. And even in the case of the other two ministers and chief ministers, they may not have been financial impropriety, but there has been ethical impropriety. And there was a time when ministers used to resign for that. Obviously, this is not the time any longer. I think as a party, we are very clear. We want debate and discussion in Parliament. We don't believe in extending this logjam forever. However, we would have liked to see the ruling government take more steps to try and ensure transparency and probity, which they haven't, I'm sorry to say.
You've been very honest and forthright about your party's opinion regarding Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Let me ask you equally forcefully to tell me where you stand on Vasundhara Raje Scindia. In her case, the potential problem is that she's Chief Minister of a sovereign assembly where 160 out of 200 MLAs support her. Should the central parliament be held up and disrupted because she refuses to resign when in fact a majority of her assemblymen actually don't want her to resign? Where do you stand on Vasundhara Raje Scindia? Because there's this anomalous factor that I've pointed out. 160 out of 200 support her in her assembly.
Well, certainly it is a problem for the BJP party. They are unable to take any action on that case, even if they choose to, from a political perspective. But however, I would personally like to see a little more evidence or understanding of what exactly transpired in the case of Mrs. Scindia and Mrs. Swaraj. I'm not completely clear on the sequence of events. And I think an investigation is already underway with the ED investigating Lalit Modi, and I understand some of those facts have been covered by that. So I would like to at least have the foreign minister offer to give a statement. I would like to hear what she has to say
before she resigns.
On that.
So here your position is different to your position on Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Here you want to hear them before either Vasundhara or Sushma resigns. Here, debate first, investigation later. In Shivraj Singh Chauhan's case, you want resignation first, debate later. Have I understood that correctly?
In Shivraj Singh Chauhan's case, the case is much more alarming. It has criminal culpability, which has been upheld by the High Court and now the Supreme Court. In the case of Mrs. Scindia and Mrs. Swaraj, I think there's a debate whether it's financial impropriety or it's ethical impropriety or an error of misjudgment.
Okay.
I think that needs to be clarified before we take a stand on that.
Let me then put that first to Pavan Verma and then Abhishek Singhvi. Pavan Verma, you've heard someone who doesn't belong either to the ND or the UPA. Your party's position is coloured because you're allies of Congress when it comes to the Bihar election. So you're seen as supporting the Congress position because you have a political motivation to do so. But Kalikesh Verma comes from bang in the middle. And you've heard him say crystal clear terms that in fact he would like to hear Sushma Swaraj before he decides there's a case for her to resign, and equally he'd like to hear more from Vasundhara Raje Scindia. Why is that not an acceptable position? Why not let them make their position clear in Parliament rather than disrupt Parliament by insisting resign first, debate afterwards?
I put to you, Karan, that in my view, and I may even be beyond partisan politics in a minority, I believe on moral grounds the minister and the two chief ministers should have resigned by now. There is enough evidence in the public domain to ask for a thorough investigation, and then if they are proved to be, if they are exonerated, they can resume office. That would be correct ethical practice in the spirit of democracy. They have chosen not to do so.
And therefore,
but I ask you the question.
Therefore, is disruption of the House the right alternative? That's the key question.
Yeah. Now, I'll give you an example. And I was speaking, Karan, about the spectacular double standards of the BJP. You may recall a minister called Mr. Ashwani Kumar. He was the Minister of Law, and on the 10th of May 2013, he tendered his resignation. Not a stricture was passed against him by the Supreme Court. There was no FIR. The BJP said that impropriety is enough ground for him to resign, and they did not allow Parliament to function. There was no question of a debate. They said he must resign first. Let me give you another example.
No, don't. You made your point. You made your point. I want to bring out this in. You made your point. What you're saying is that the same standards should apply now as they applied then when the BJP was gunning for either Ashwani Kumar or Pavan Bansal. That's a fair point. But let me put it like this to you, Abhishek Singhvi. At the end of the day, if you persist in disrupting Parliament, when parties like, and by the way, I'm quoting their names now, the Samajwadi Party, the TMC, possibly the BSP and DMK, almost definitely the BJD, because you heard Kailash Singh give his party's position, perhaps even the AIDMK, are not insisting on resignation. And yet, if despite that you persist with disrupting Parliament, you're going to end up A, isolated, and B, possibly annoying the other parties. Are you prepared to run that risk? Because that's the risk you're facing.
Karan, there is no doubt you are right to the extent that different parties have very, very large convergences and consensus on some issues, and on some issues they may have a divergence. So there is not a synchronization in that sense. I understand that. But where we feel it's a matter of principle, we are going to absolutely stay firm. It is not that we would like people to go with us, and many parties are in fact following along with us a particular path. But it is not that we are going to change our stance if we find that other parties have a different view on certain things. That's the first point, but the second point is important. Our stand is not an absolute black and white. Had we seen, Karan, had this country seen a genuine attempt, you could have started with some amount of give and take. Have you seen in 2 months, please don't forget Parliament started now. For the last 2 months, A, the Prime Minister has not castigated, not stopped. He has not offered an SIT on his own. The CBI was not offered by them. They were carried screaming and shouting to the Supreme Court when on the last day they made a virtue out of necessity. They have never said an independent Supreme Court judge can inquire.
Okay.
They've never made any move which shows a genuineness to inquire. And therefore, it is accountability through Parliament also to ask for an inquiry first and not sterile discussion. We are not averse to discussion.
Okay.
But show something real. Show something genuine to show that you want the truth. It is very clear that you're trying to stonewall and not wanting the truth.
Samit Patra, let me tell you why many people outside Parliament, who have no axe to grind in political terms, actually believe that this is an issue where propriety ought to take precedence over everything else. The very point made a moment ago by Pavan Verma. And the reason is this. You came to power promising to clean up things. You came to power promising to be different. And even as recently as the 25th of May in Mathura, when the Prime Minister was marking his first anniversary in office, he was proud of what he claimed to be the clean record of his government. This is what he said, and I'm quoting him. पिछले एक साल में कहीं से कोई घोटाले की खबर आई है, कोई भाई भतीजेवाद की खबर आई है, कोई रिमोट कंट्रोल की खबर आई है, कोई नेताजी के दामाद का किस्सा सुना है, किसी नेताजी के बेटे का किस्सा सुना है, किसी नेताजी के बेटे की कहानी सुनी है. भाइयों और बहनों, बुरे दिन गए. Now, by the way, Sushma Swaraj, Vasundhara Raje Scindia and Shivraj Singh Chauhan prove he's wrong. If he's going to take pride in claiming that those days are gone, then the least he can do is have an investigation immediately. The least he can do is tell these ministers to step aside. Propriety, his own credibility demands that they should. If he doesn't, he's proving himself to be a hypocrite.
Karan, give me some time to answer this question of yours. Number one, we are all still proud of the very fact that not even a single paisa has been misappropriated under the rule of Mr. Narendra Modi, and propriety has not been compromised. The three cases that we are pertinently talking about, number one, Sushma Swaraj. Sushma Swaraj's case is not that of a corruption. It is a case of compassion, which the opposition is saying.
She's guilty technically of breaching 13(1)(d)(3) of the Prevention of Corruption Act. I've said it so often, I know that section by heart.
Let me complete, Karan. Number one, it is a case of... I was not interjecting anyone. You are disrupting in the parliament. You are disrupting in the debate as well. Please let me complete my point. It is a case of compassion which the opposition feels otherwise, feels it is misplaced. We feel it differently, that no, it was not misplaced. If it has helped someone, it has helped the wife of an offender. The wife was not the offender, remember. Secondly, as far as Vasundhara, Raje and Dushyant are concerned, here I have a hard-hitting fact. Now look, the premise on which the Congress had been fighting the case was that the Dholpur Palace does not belong to Vasundhara Raje or to her son Dushyant Raje, and it is a Sarkari property.
Forgive me.
My question is,
the
if they have such
argument on which Congress is fighting is that she was, as leader of the opposition, giving a character certificate to a man who they believe was an offender from the law, that is wanted by the law, and in addition she asked for that to be kept secret from the Indian government, which some congressmen interpret, perhaps exaggeratedly, as treason.
I'll answer that as well. But as far
briefly,
as
let's not go through the whole history of everything.
As far as Dholpur Palace is concerned, because they do not have the right documents, because they have been, in particular Mr. Jairam Ramesh has been proved wrong, that's why they are not gone to any court of law for a want of an FIR or for want of any investigation. They have been proved wrong there. As far as Vasundhara Raje misappropriately wanting Lalit Modi's citizenship in UK is concerned, it was just a witness statement, it was not a testimony, and as for the UK Civil Rule 1998, since it was not testified, it does not hold any ground. As far as Shivraj Singh Chauhan is concerned, let me maintain over here, the High Court number of times and the Supreme Court as early as about a fortnight ago had begun its verdict by saying that we appreciate the stand of the Madhya Pradesh government.
How lucky you are. How very convenient and how lucky you are. But Naresh Gujral, after that long list of self-justificatory arguments from Sambit Patra,